Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, December 27th, and I'm Blair Kirkhoff. I hope everyone who celebrates had a Merry Christmas. Santa was good to the Chiefs, bringing a victory over the Seattle Seahawks on a frigid Saturday afternoon when the defense played well and Patrick Mahomes turned in a highlight reel touchdown run to go along with his two scoring passes. Today's podcast is our discussion of the game. It started as a post-game SportsBeat Live conversation with beat writers Jesse Newell and Herbie Teope. We went over the game, where the Chiefs sit in the AFC standings, playoff picture that is, and more. So if you missed that conversation then, here it is. Okay, let's get started. Hello from GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Welcome to SportsBeat Live, where we are going to talk about the Chiefs' 24-10 victory today over the Seattle Seahawks with the folks in the media who know them best. Herbie Teope and Jesse Newell, the beat writers for the Kansas City Star, are here, and we're going to talk about them with you. So send us questions and comments, and let's talk about these 12-3 Kansas City Chiefs. I'm looking over to the left, and Herbie, I bet you can see it. Just a gorgeous sunset over in the southwest of Arrowhead, and I'm looking over to the right, and I see light. It's still light. Here it is getting darker earlier and earlier, but still light outside, and I think Santa's sleigh is making its way across from the east. Hope it doesn't hit the Seahawks plane on the way home, but good win for the Chiefs today. Solid win. Offense did not have one of its great games. It was good in that there were no turnovers for the Chiefs. That's always a big thing, but didn't pile up the yards or big numbers. They got the job done, though. I thought it was a very good game for the defense. But let's hear what Herbie and Jesse have to say about it. Herbie, let's start with you. What is just some general impressions from today's Chiefs victory?
The defense, you hit the nail on the head. You're talking about a team, the Seahawks team that entered this game averaging 25.7 points per game, ranked 7th in the league. They ranked at near the top of the league in total yards. And when the dust settled, 10 points. They're 15 points below their average. They finished below average of what they averaged per total yards. Geno Smith also, the passing was down. The defense punched the Seahawks in the mouth, and I thought it was just absolutely impressive.
Hey, Jesse, how about you? What are some of your big takeaways?
Yeah, I think Herbie hit on the head. We've been talking the last few weeks, like how good is this defense? They were ranked, 25th or so in Football Outsiders defensive ratings coming into the week. Earlier in the year, they were good enough to win Chiefs games when they weren't particularly playing well, but is that going to continue to be the case? And today was a game that they picked up the offense, absolutely. And I thought Mitoltis made a great point on the Chiefs radio broadcast on walking down. We were getting on the elevators on the way to go downstairs, but really where the Chiefs were good, where they were clutch. They had the 3 fourth down stops against the Seahawks, which ended up being really big plays. All 3 of those plays made by a rookie. You talk about George Karlaftis with a bat down of a pass, Ryan Cook, and then also Trent McDuffie making big tackles in open space to be able to stop the Seahawks. I'm looking at these numbers, and basically the offense has sort of moved it the same way, at the same rate of getting first down. This is a real struggle for the Chiefs offensively today, but the defense came through with the clutch plays, had the turnover as well, and so they came through on the big downs better than the Seahawks did on their big downs. So a really big performance by the Chiefs defense, and obviously I think anytime this time of year when you have these rookies stepping up and performing the way they did today, that gives you a little bit more encouragement heading into the postseason when the Chiefs are going to have to rely on those guys. They're going to have to make big plays then as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point about those being rookies. I thought Brian Cook's play was that they were all excellent plays. Cook was stopped for no yardage, and McDuffie's a yard short of the first down. And, of course, Karlaftis, who also ended up with a sack today, so a batted down pass and a sack. I thought this may have been his best game of the season. He was my Kansas City Star player of the game. I thought you could have given him there were a lot of defensive players who were worthy of it. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay. Bolton had 15 or 16 tackles, and I thought Willie Gay had a good game. You mentioned Thornhill with the end zone interception. How about Kansas City winning the turnover battle? Good to see that. Chris Jones with a sack, and I thought he was disruptive. But I gave it to Karlaftis for his couple of good plays in this game. A lot of comments and questions coming in. Let's get right to them. Larry, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Will Vahe be joining us? No. Vahe going total Scrooge on us here on Christmas Eve. Now he's getting through his column, and so is Sam McDowell. So you are stuck with the three of us today. Andrew says, please get 84 some new gloves, please. Herbie, what was Justin Watson's problem today? A couple of drops, and one was it didn't seem like it could have been an easier pass.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to see him drop those passes, especially given what Jesse and I saw him do during even training camp. It seemed like everything thrown his way, he was pulling it in. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those games, that's the only thing. It's just one of those games.
Yeah, he's been good for the Chiefs all year, right? There's no doubt about that. So good sign, Jesse, that they're getting this kind of defensive play. Obviously, it's a good sign, right? That they got a game like this today. How much did the weather play into it, though? With lower scoring game, the game came in under, right? And the over under, I believe, was in the 40s at some, but this one came under. How much do you think the weather played a factor in today's game?
Yeah, actually closed at 50.5. So this one point total was a lot higher than other ones out there where you talk about like the Cleveland game was supposed to have a bunch of wind in it. And obviously the Browns and Saints do not have the good offenses as the Chiefs and the Seahawks do. I think it was, it impacted it. We saw some drops out there you don't normally see. There was that one pass that Mahomes had to Justin Watson. He left a little bit short in the end zone. I think on a normal sunny 60-degree day, he probably throws it a little bit further, lets him run under it, and gets a touchdown there. So I would say you would have to say it had an impact, but it could have been worse. There could have been a lot of wind out there. And obviously once you step on the field and you're cold, then, you just got to sort of deal with it. They have the heated benches, they wear the scuba gear, all those sorts of things. So in terms of playability, this was probably better than a lot of other locations out there. And we saw a lot of punts from the Chiefs today. I mean, this is sort of the opposite game that we normally see. Usually it's the Chiefs march the ball down the field, but they take a while, and the other team marches the ball down the field and takes a while. And so we see the Chiefs get, 8 or 9 possessions and still score 24, 27 points. And we say, what's wrong with the offense? Well, you only touch the ball 8 times. It's a little bit tougher to score a bunch, but this was the opposite. The offense had plenty of chances and really just kind of stuck in the mud for most of the game. This was not Patrick Mahomes' best performance. I think that's pretty obvious, but we have to give him credit as well. That one drive where they really needed it, he found Kelsey twice and then made the superhero play like he does. You always hear kind of the cliche about Patrick Mahomes. He never gets caught. He doesn't seem like he's fast, but he never gets caught from behind when he's running the football. It's just amazing to me when he dives for that pylon on that fourth quarter run. I mean, he just grazes the pylon enough to knock that thing over like a bowling pin. So everybody knows it's a touchdown, but it's just amazing to me how I think the old joke is like Patrick Mahomes is 1% more athletic than the guy chasing him. It's just another example. Patrick Mahomes was 1% good enough when somebody's chasing him and to put his hand down, brace himself up, kind of do a push-up position, have push-up position and dive for the end zone. Even in these games when he's not that great, he still ends up making plays that are just amazing and things you've never seen before. So he'll look back at the tape. The Chiefs will look back at the tape. This was not a good offensive performance from them with as many possessions as they had, but even in those games when you have these moments like this, it's pretty special to watch. And it's why a lot of people, when they're celebrating their holidays tonight, will look around the tree and think about, hey, it's pretty cool that Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback of the hometown team.
Right. And that touchdown run when he hitting the inside of the or the outside of the pylon, that's a master craftsman there, knowing he needed to get it, knowing that was the only place he could. And get the touchdown. That was excellent. One of the really interesting matchups today was L'Jarius Sneed on DK Metcalf. And first of all, I think we all saw before the game that Metcalf and some of his wide receiving teammates were playing in the winter wonderland that was Arrowhead Stadium today. I don't know if maybe you guys can tell me out there if the television cameras caught it or if it was part of the broadcast. But what we saw a good 90 minutes before the game were, well, I'll let Herbie tell us exactly what we saw on the field.
Well, to give DK Metcalf credit for being the man of his word, because he did tell the Seahawks reporters during a news conference up there on Wednesday that he would come out shirtless. So I don't know. I'm going to say brave man. I don't know, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, but you're not going to catch me out there shirtless when it's -5 degrees below zero. But mentioned Snead locking up on Metcalf. Now, to me, I thought this was fascinating because typically when the Chiefs go to nickel, Snead moves inside. That's always been the case. He has never shadowed or traveled with the opposing team's number one wide receiver this season until today. I asked Coach Andy Reid about that after the game, and he said, yes, this was part of defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo's plan, and he credited Spags for coming up with that because you got two good football players, and he thought it was a good matchup. Yes, Metcalf had 81 yards receiving on 7 catches, but as we know, he's a guy that can take over a game. I thought it was a good matchup, and I'm really curious to see as we go forward, will the Chiefs allow Snead to also travel against the guys like Stephon Diggs or Jamar Chase if they meet up again in the playoffs? Because I thought today was a good sign of that.
Do you think they should? I mean, I think it was successful for the most part. I thought there were one or two of the catches. How many total? You said he had 81 of 7 receptions, so 11.6 yards per catch. I thought for the most part, Snead did a good job on him. That's a tough assignment, but there's no doubt that Snead is the Chiefs' best cover corner, and they have been burned by opponents' number one receivers during the season. I can remember Evans for the Bucks and Diggs for the Bills. You mentioned. We can go on. I do salute the Chiefs for making this change on defense, and look, it was 17-0 before the Seahawks put together a little bit of drive at the end of the first half to make it 17-3, and that's where it stayed through most of the third quarter. And then to go back to Jesse's point, that's when the Chiefs came up with a couple of those 4th down stops. It was in the third quarter, and I that was critical. I don't know if you guys heard me, because I turned to Vahe and Sam and said I think the Chiefs need one more score to feel good about this, because I thought it was just a matter of time before the Seahawks were going to puncture the Chiefs defense and get in the end zone and turn it into a one-score game on a day that Mahomes and the offense just weren't clicking as we've seen in previous weeks. But it didn't happen, and the big plays were made on the defensive side. Thornhill, it turns out, with that end zone interception, which I think was his second pick of the year, that ended the last real Seahawks threat. Chiefs made it 24-3 after that on the 2 plays that Jesse alluded to, Mahomes to Kelsey, and then got in the end zone on Mahomes' run. Hey, I want to talk about the first 2 touchdowns for the Chiefs, the Kadarius Toney, flip pass, and then the Jerick McKinnon touchdown reception. I thought both were salutes to those 2 players in particular. Mahomes got the flip pass to Toney and threw an accurate ball to McKinnon. But in both cases, I thought the wide receivers or those who received the pass, and in Toney's case, the offensive line did a heck of a job on that. Herbie, why don't you take the first one with the what did you see on the Toney reception?
All I know is Jesse Newell and I were, Jesse and I were sitting next to each other. We both kind of like reacted at the same time, because all we saw was this big giant mass coming over there and just destroying Seahawks cornerback Kobe Bryant. And then we look up, and of course, Jesse said, was that Trey Smith? And I was like, I think that was Trey Smith. And then thankfully the NFL put out a quick clip of it, and it was Trey Smith. This is the second time this year we've seen him just totally obliterate a hapless defender, a defensive back trying to stop a play inside the 10-yard line. He did it in Denver against Justin Simmons. We see it here again today, and the path for Kadarius Toney just to walk right into the end zone. So kudos to the Chiefs for coming up, play design, and kudos to Trey Smith for executing that block.
And then on the McKinnon touchdown, that was just kind of all effort, wasn't it, Jesse? He gets catches the ball. He's open in the flat. Mahomes gets it to him. Spin move at about the 3 to shake one tackler, and then he powers through another one at the goal line. Andrew, he's got like 6 touchdowns in the last month. Yeah, I added him up. He's got 6 touchdown receptions in his last 4 games, and the 26-yard touchdown run against the Texans last week to win that game in overtime. McKinnon is really becoming their go-to guy when it comes to touchdown passes.
Yeah, the broadcast mentioned he had the most touchdowns in December, I believe, in the NFL, which, again, if you'd have told us that about a month ago, I'm not sure any of us would really would have believed. But, so I kind of, on these, this is kind of where the MVP battle, if you will, sort of gets convoluted, because I think Patrick Mahomes last year would not have thrown that pass to Jerick McKinnon. Because it's a check down. It's not in the end zone. He would have looked for a guy in the end zone to make that play himself. And if not, he would have scrambled around. He'd run backwards. He'd run around. But this year, that's sort of what he's done. And we saw that last week against the Texans, where he was just so much precision, because it's like he said he saw there were openings in the zone that he wasn't taking advantage of against Denver. So the next week he comes back and says, if a guy's open in the zone, I hit my back foot, I'm going to hit that guy. And so if you watch that play, it's kind of designed basically to kind of get some traffic in front of Jerick McKinnon's man. And Jerick McKinnon gets the ball around the 7 or 8, and he can get the ball to about the 3 or the 4. Then he's got to do the work from there. And so, yeah, it's a great individual effort by Jerick McKinnon to make a guy, didn't completely make a miss, but kind of dodged him a little bit and was able to fall forward in the end zone. But, I think Patrick Mahomes deserves credit, because a year ago, I think that in his mindset, that wouldn't have been good enough. You know what I mean? Like, to get to the 4 or 3 and let his own player make the play, it wouldn't have been good enough. And that's why I think it's tough, the narrative this year with him, because, there's a lot of yards after catch with this team. There's a lot of these type of decisions with Patrick Mahomes racking up these numbers, because he's throwing it short. He's taking what's given to him, and the other guys are sort of getting those yards. So I think he deserves credit for that. I think he deserves credit for that decision. If a defense is going to play you deep, you throw it to the short guy. But again, Jerick McKinnon makes a great play, gets to the end zone. But I think that is a great example of the maturation we've seen from Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't. It's not the Cincinnati game all over again from last year in the AFC Championship game, where he's just pressing to make the miracle play. It's, hey, that guy's open. He's in the flat. I'm going to give him a chance. And I think I'm going to give him a chance has put Patrick Mahomes, safely in this MVP conversation. But as you would ask him, most importantly for the Chiefs, it's put them in position to be the best offense in football, even after losing one of their best weapons in the offseason. So I think that's what's made him great this year, even if some people might ding that against him, because, again, it was a throw out in the flat, nothing really flashy, but it's probably something he didn't do in his first couple years of his career.
Okay, Mahomes was 16 to 28, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and as I said at the top of the show, no interceptions, no turnovers for the Chiefs today. And the 52-yarder to Kelsey in the fourth quarter was his long pass, 106.8 rating. I think that's above his season average. So on a day where the numbers weren't spectacular like they were a week ago against the Texans, I think solid numbers, doesn't do anything to hurt his NFL MVP chances. In fact, without Jalen Hurts playing today, I do think Mahomes becomes the solid favorite right now. I no longer think of it as a toss-up, but and it's not to say Mahomes could lose it or Hurts couldn't win it, or even Josh Allen. But I think with 2 games remaining, Mahomes becomes if he hadn't already, becomes the favorite to win the MVP.
Let's be honest, Blair, too. I mean, that dive, the extending out, the hitting the pylon, we always hear in college football, it's the Heisman moment. When did the guy hit his Heisman moment? And there it is. Andrew's got it right here. That's an MVP moment. I mean, that's the dive. I mean, that people are going to remember that photo. I talked to Jerick McKinnon in the locker room. He said he was starting to get dressed, and Patrick came over to him with the cell phone and showed him the photo. And Jerick was basically telling him, man, you got to get a fire sort of caption for that if you're going to post on social media, because that photo deserves some sort of great, emoji or message with it, because It's amazing. I mean, if you go look at that play, he kind of turns his hand inward to stay in bounds with his hand. He talked about afterwards, he kind of put himself in push-up position, which, you got to overlook that. I mean, the guy, he is not like Isaiah Pacheco. He's not, a Greek god of physique. But, to be able to push yourself, levitate up, keep yourself up, extend with the ball, extend it far enough to just touch that pylon. I talked about Justin Watson. That's a really athletic play with what Patrick Mahomes did there. And again, just another moment we don't see from other quarterbacks. So we can talk through all the stats, all the numbers. Again, we all watched the game. We all watched the 3 hours. We all know he didn't really play that well throughout the course of it. But what are casual people and casual voters going to see from this? They're going to see this photo of him reaching out, touching the pylon, and having another one of those Michael Jordan moments. And I'm with you, Blair. I think it's going to help him lock up the MVP, even if this wasn't his best performance.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation before the game, Jesse, about Mahomes' physique. Maybe we'll touch on that in a later show. Not Adonis for Mahomes, but seems to have the muscles in the right places, and especially his brain. The guy is otherworldly. This guy behind me, otherworldly as a quarterback. He is amazing. All right, Cody, you mentioned it. I was going to throw this to Herbie. Harrison Butker, the drama, the saga that is the Chiefs kicking game. We don't have to talk about it this week, do we, Herbie?
No, we don't, but we can't. We have to give him kudos for rebounding. Perfect 3 for 3 on extra points, and to kick that 47-yard field goal in these conditions. Hat tip to Harrison Butker for silencing the critics for at least another week. Hat tip to Tommy Townsend for silencing the critics for holds, because Butker was pretty good today.
Yeah, he's right down the middle on all his kicks, it looked like. And that's sort of what I was looking for, because even with his makes in between his misses in recent weeks, he'd be just sliding it inside the upright. And I know that's all that matters. But for me, I was looking at where his kicks went today, and they all seemed to go right down the middle. Good one, Cody. Good game for him. And man, the Chiefs absolutely have to have Butker be accurate in the postseason, and he always has been in the postseason. That's not been a concern for the Chiefs, and hopefully today starts the beginning of just a perfect finish for him for the season. Okay, I don't know about Herbie. You've talked about it a lot over the last month or so. There's a lot of scoreboard watching going on with the Chiefs, and it looked early that the Bills might have been in for a tussle at Chicago. Turns out not the case, and the Bengals. They look to be in trouble in New England. The Patriots had the ball at the 5 inside 2 minutes, down 4, and then lost a fumble. And the Bengals put it away in the end and win 22-18. I think was the final in New England. So, just where does that leave the Chiefs, and what has to happen here in the next 2 weeks for them to become the number 1 seed?
They need the Buffalo Bills to lose, and of course, I think all of us are circling when the Bills square off against the Bengals, because that's going to be the marquee showdown. I guarantee you, probably a lot of Chiefs are also Chiefs players and Chiefs coaching staffs will probably be watching that game as well. The Bills had the Patriots next, or I think they have them next. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I don't think they're going to have any problems beating the Patriots, none whatsoever. So it's going to be the Bengals and the Bills. That's the big game.
And as Andrew reminds us, it's next week. And I believe it could Monday night or Sunday night. It's a night game, I believe, primetime game. So that is that's the game we're all interested in, assuming the Chiefs can handle their business against the Denver Broncos at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Another noon kickoff next Sunday. So Roy asks, wonder what Sky Moore has to do to get more playing time other than avoiding punt returns. Sky Moore, I noted on one of the one play in the first half, we kind of had our eyes on Sky Moore, and I think it was Mahomes ended up throwing the ball over the middle, incomplete, and he had Sky Moore wide open on the right side in the flat, and might even have been a touchdown. but I don't think a target. Did he have a reception today? I got the stats right in front of me. Let's look. Sky Moore, 1 catch for 5 yards. I don't know, Herbie. Is there still a trust thing with Sky Moore, or I think of the balls that Watson dropped today, and what is it going to take to get Sky Moore a little more action?
I think if anything, it's a matter of there's only so many balls that can be spread around in this offense. Patrick Mahomes has been consistently throwing to 6, 7, 8 wide receivers every game this season. So now it's a matter of where can you fit him in? And you got to remember, Kadarius Toney just came back, and he's a playmaker. And they should have McCole Hardman back here for the postseason. So now all of a sudden, Sky Moore has all the talent, but so are all the other players. They all have their own certain roles within this offense, and it's to kind of figure out how many balls can you spread around and who's the main guy in the game plan. And I don't think it's going to be Sky Moore. Not this year, at least.
Well, and that's an interesting thing that Herbie's talking about here, Blair, because this is sort of where the Chiefs are at with tight end. I mean, you noticed when Jody Fortson went down, Blake Bell was immediately elevated. It was almost like they were sort of waiting on a tight end injury to get Blake Bell back in there. But when McCole Hardman comes back, the Chiefs all of a sudden are one too many at receiver. So they have to figure this out at some point, again, barring some sort of injury. But yeah, Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman kind of do the same thing. Justin Watson knows all the positions and is a special teamer. Sky Moore obviously is a flashy guy, and the one catch he did make, he made actually 2 guys miss on that screen pass. So it was actually a pretty impressive play by him. I think he's too talented to not be on the game day roster, if you will, but the Chiefs are going to have a decision to make here at some point. So that's why, I'm not saying anything that Justin Watson doesn't know. He's a contributor on special teams and done good things for them, knows all the playbook, and obviously Patrick Mahomes has a lot of trust in him. But those guys at some point, somebody's got to be the odd man out. You can't just continue to throw receivers on your roster if you're not going to use all of them. So that'll be something to watch over the next few weeks to see kind of who wins that battle and who at some point might have to be a game day inactive, even when they've performed a pretty big role throughout the course of this entire season.
That will do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC staff of George Howard, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Herbie Teope and Jesse Newell for sharing their insights. I'll tell you what, with a little extra time to read during the holidays, I can finally get through a morning sports edition. The best digital sports page in America is so jam-packed with stories and everything, it takes us extra time to get through it. Check it out at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.